Isn't it just like the Minnesota Vikings to not even be in the playoffs and still take a massive L in the playoffs? Um, Now, let me preface this by saying I'm very happy for Sam Darnold. I am. I've been rooting for him through the playoffs. I'm certainly going to root for him in the Super Bowl because I don't want the goddamn Patriots winning again. Um, I hope Seattle wins the Super Bowl. I hope they blow out the Patriots. I hope Sam Darnold wins Super Bowl MVP. I think that would be great. But my genuine happiness for Sam Darnold has to share space with my blinding, furious rage at the Minnesota Vikings organization. I was down on Darnold at the end of last season. The debacle against the Lions when we were playing for the number one seed, and then at the just a horrible playoff game against the Rams. I believe there's a video on here, be basically telling Sam Darnold to fuck off. I was wrong. I was 100% wrong. Um, with the way things finished last season with him, I was 100% fine with just sending him on his way. Let him go. We'll move on. We'll move on with our lives. Um, I was wrong. I was 100% wrong. I was as wrong about this as I've been about anything involving the Vikings, maybe in my lifetime. And oh God, I was. But me being wrong is one thing. I'm not the one making the personnel decisions with this football team, because we just got through watching one of the most thoroughly unpleasant, unenjoyable Viking seasons ever. Because instead of re-signing Sam Darnold, and yes, we would have had to, God forbid, we would have had to pay him some money. I forget what he got exactly. Was it like $30 million a year or something from Seattle? I forget what the duration of the contract was. Whatever it was, Seattle ain't upset. They're like, hey, we went from what was it, Geno Smith to Sam Darnold. You got to pay a quarterback once in a while. That's all right, you do. I know they bonded this whole rookie contract quarterback, and you use all your cap space and build out the roster. Well, much has been talked about how much of a fucking disaster the free agent signings this past year for the Vikings were, and being able to sign those bust players, basically, Hargrave, Allen, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries. Now we maybe could have signed some of those guys too, even with Darnold, but just this belief that it's arrogance. It's arrogance of Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. It's the arrogance of Kevin O'Connell, because you had the whole competitive rebuild when they come in here, and things were working better when they were rebuilding than when they built than with what they built to. They draft J.J. McCarthy, and from the moment they drafted J.J. McCarthy, it's obvious that they were going to just give him the keys to the kingdom, no matter what. No matter what. I genuinely question if Darnold had played well in the playoff game last year. Maybe he plays well and they lose, or maybe he plays well and they win, go on a little bit of a run. They still might might just move on to JJ McCarthy because it's pure fucking arrogance. I was never, going back to, this all of it really began when Kirk Cousins blew out his fucking Achilles on Lambeau Field. Um, you know, you're gonna move on from him. That's fine. I wasn't opposed to that move, even though that move might not look like it was the right move either. You know, you know, you know, it can work. It can work going and getting the rookie quarterback and going on there. They're showing the Patriots highlights. Freaking Drake May's in the Super Bowl. But again, but of course the Patriots were in a real low point, and then they bring in Drake May. We supposedly had a really good team, and we hand the keys to fucking strychnine. I'm so mad. It's like even if you defend all the moves, all the parts, all the pieces of this disaster that's taken place over the last couple of years, and how this all worked out, it worked out in the most disastrous fashion imaginable. And it's like, I'm not saying like, okay, we keep Sam Darnold for this year. Does that mean we're the team that's now in the Super Bowl? It's a huge stretch to say that. I can guarantee this: we would have been better than 9-8, and if we were anything better than 9-8, we would have at least been in the dance, and we would have had a chance in a conference, and frankly an entire sport that's pretty damn weak this year. And Darnold, young guy, like he's, he could have been the guy for a long term. Whatever. He had some bumpy games during this regular season with us, then had the two horrible games at the end. But there's a reasonable take that he would have been better in a year or two in the Vikings system. He's a guy who was with the dysfunctional Jets and the dysfunctional Panthers, and then backing up in San Francisco. Then he comes here, and it's like, well, maybe if he whatever KOC, not to give him all the credit, because maybe it is, or maybe Darnold is just actually a pretty decent quarterback, and he just needs to get away from these, bottom feeder type franchises, to have some success. And but KOC gets all the credit because he's the QB whisperer. Well, he ain't whispering too much. He ain't whispering too well this year. Because now Darnold goes to Seattle, another pretty well-run franchise, and look at what happened. He had some rough games. He wasn't perfect every week, by any means, but he played pretty damn well in these playoffs, and of course in the NFC Championship game here. Biggest game of his life by far. Like, if this game had gone wrong, everyone would have just piled back on him and like, oh, see, Sam Darnold is actually terrible. And what did he do? He threw for 340 something, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers, tons of clutch throws. Some real clutch throws late. Even when they're just trying to protect the lead. Fantastic game. Like, if he plays like that in the Super Bowl, he's definitely gonna be Super Bowl MVP. A fantastic game. Does that mean he would have done that with us this year if we kept him? No. But and it is hindsight in a way. And I said, I'm wrong. I was so wrong to say ship his ass out of here after the way the last season ended. But and I think they maybe made some effort to keep him, but it was probably similar to what they did with like Daniel Jones, where it's like, we'll kind of offer you something, but we know you're going to get a bigger, bigger deal, better situation elsewhere. And look, even if Seattle's the team of the Super Bowl, but maybe the Vikings had been a playoff team. J.J. McCarthy had looked like he actually can play instead of being just an injury-prone bust most of the time. It'd be a little different, but you know, it looks like we gave away an ascending Super Bowl caliber quarterback for a complete fucking bust of a quarterback who can't stay healthy, and when he is healthy, he's not very good. And it's like, and to have him go to the Super Bowl the first year after he leaves, too, is just because we've had Vikings quarterbacks go elsewhere and play in a Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl. We had Brad Johnson versus Rich Gannon in a Super Bowl once. I know there's some other examples, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but there have been quarterbacks who have been in here and gone elsewhere. And but it's not the first year. Not the first year. It's like I'm happy for Sam Darnold, but it's like, as a Vikings fan, watching this happen, it's a dagger. I've been pining for decades. We all have for the Vikings to just get to a damn Super Bowl. And we've seen coaches leave here and go and win Super Bowls and get to Super Bowls. Many players. I mean, we're going to see some former Vikings in the Super Bowl. Stephon Diggs and Garrett Bradbury, Josh Dobbs, backup quarterback in New England. We're going to see some. I mean, that's a player movement all the time. So you're inevitably going to have former Vikings make the Super Bowl with other teams, but just it's just frustrating as hell, man. And it doesn't mean that Darnold was going to get us there either. Even if we keep him long term, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to get us there. But after the season that we had, where this whole regime, this KOC Kwesi regime, imploded on itself due to its own arrogance and its own incompetence, and if the seats for these guys were not hot already going into the 2026 season and into this off season, they are scorching now. And there's a lot of Vikings fans who are like, oh, it doesn't matter what Darnold does, it was the right decision. Well, no, it wasn't. It clearly wasn't the right decision. The only way it can still become the right decision is if J.J. McCarthy magically becomes this star quarterback. It ain't gonna fucking happen, people. He's not gonna be that guy. His ceiling is maybe being some sort of a functional quarterback. He ain't gonna lead you nowhere. He's not gonna throw for 340 yards and 3 touchdowns in an NFC Championship game for you. It's never gonna fucking happen. We throw parades when this fucking guy throws for 200 yards in a game. It's never gonna happen. It's so frustrating to see to see this happen and happen so quickly. Because last season we're having this, going into last season, nobody thought Sam Darnold was going to be much of anything. I mean, most of us didn't think he was even going to be the starter until McCarthy got hurt in the preseason, and and then out of nowhere we have this just unbelievable 14-win season. And yeah, the way it ended was such a thud, and it certainly drained a lot of the fun out of it to have it end that way. But then you have the season, which was a fucking nightmare most of the way. Like, even the wins were terrible. Like, it was a very unpleasant season. And, you know, comebacks, like, it's like, you know, it's like, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And I mean, even the other QB decisions we could have made. We could have kept Daniel Jones. He until he got hurt, he was leading the Colts to the 1 seed. You know, we could have drafted Bo Nix, and if he was healthy, he'd be in the Super Bowl. You know, I bet you anything in the world, Bo Nix wins that game today for Denver if he's healthy. You know, God help me, Aaron Rodgers. If we brought him in here, it probably would have been a better season than what we got. I wouldn't have enjoyed it at all, but you know, it would have worked. I mean, you know, and they're going to do something. I mean, there's a lot of talk that they're going to do something at quarterback. Like, you know, if we hit the home run and go get Joe Burrow, all right, maybe I'll forgive some of this. But you know, that's a very minuscule chance that's going to happen. You know, instead we're going to just have to, you know, pin our hopes probably on J.J. McCarthy having some miraculous, you know, year 2 as a starter ascension, which ain't gonna fucking happen. It's just not. I hope I'm wrong, but I hope I'm as wrong about J.J. McCarthy now as I feel about him now as I was about Sam Darnold a year ago. But I ain't wrong that much. I'm pretty smart. Yeah, it's just. It's just so endlessly frustrating. It's like it's life as a Vikings fan. We always take these kind of hits. You know, we don't ever get to go to the promised land, and then we have to deal with shit like this. You know, we have to deal with players going elsewhere. You know, whether it's Sam Darnold leaving and making the Super Bowl, or you know, Randy Moss leaves here and goes to Super Bowl. Randy Moss played to win the Super Bowl with the fucking 49ers. He played for 2 other teams in the Super Bowl after leaving here. You know, just this. Oh, this stuff is just so endlessly frustrating. It's, you know, Kwesi and KOC, and there's differing reports out there about who necessarily was who was pushing for JJ McCarthy, who wasn't, like, but you know, they're going down together. If JJ McCarthy does not miraculously turn into something, or they don't make some big move for a quarterback to get back in the playoffs and maybe go on a run. I mean, they got to win a playoff game. I mean, look at what's happened with these coaches. I don't think I've made a video since a lot of these coaches started leaving. You know, John Harbaugh gets fired. Mike Tomlin steps down under pressure. The Bills fire Sean McDermott, who had won the playoff game 6 years in a row. KOC's 0 for 4. You know, 4 seasons here, no playoff wins, 0 for 2 in the playoffs. And you know, if that goes to 5, that's it. And if it goes there largely because they bet the farm on this quarterback who had no business being a first-round pick and had no business being handed the keys to the car here. But you know, it's just a mix. I'm frustrated. I'm angry, but I'm also happy for Darnold. You know, the whole time here he conducted himself very well, and he exceeded expectations. I mean, he had the out of nowhere Case Keenum season, just didn't have any playoff wins, but and of course he beat the Rams. It's like of course it had to be. He also couldn't beat the Rams to get to the Super Bowl, but and he just plays out of his mind, plays the best game of his life and the biggest game of his life. So good for him. I'm happy he did it. and I hope he plays the same way in the Super Bowl and wins Super Bowl MVP. So we'll get another dagger if that happens. But oh, this organization has just failed the franchise, and everyone's on the hot seat. It is playoff success, and that's whether it's with McCarthy or they go get some other quarterback. It is playoff success in 2026 or get the fuck out.